Hi, I'm Cassandra Bodzak, and I just had a fabulous time being interviewed by Keith Andrew. And I'm so excited for you to check out our episode if you're ready to be inspired to create an impact in the world. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more episodes just like this.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the KeithAndrewNetWork. This is 660. I'm here with the beautiful and talented Cassandra. I just want to say thank you for accepting my request and being a guest on my talk show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation.
No, the honor's all mine. For people who want to know more about the KeithAndrewNetWork, go to YouTube. When you're on YouTube, type in either one of the three words, hashtag KeithAndrewNetwork, KeithAndrewNetwork by itself, or KeithAndrewNetwork.com. I'm starting to use the hashtag, so because the hashtags are a big thing now. So either way, KeithAndrewNetwork, KeithAndrewNetwork.com, or KeithAndrewNetwork with a hashtag. So hey, why not spice it up, right?
I love it. I love it.
But with that being said, for people who want to know what is the point of my talk show, the whole point of my talk show is to show people that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities to never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be. It's to prove to them you can still amount to something. One thing I do want to point out, because a lot of people that I ask say, well, I really don't have disabilities. For an example, you don't have a disability, but you wanted to be on the show. As I made in the video last night, you can see it on my Instagram, is I put in big bold letters so everyone can see it. You do not, I guess like exclamation point, you do not have to have a disability to be on my show. I have interviewed actors, actresses, models, CEOs, professional wrestlers, people with disabilities, people without disabilities. I'm turning myself into an example, saying if I can do it, you can do it too. And people are like, well, why do you have the beautiful and talented Cassandra on your show? Because she wants to make a new friend, number one. You want to support my message. And by just being here on the show, you're making a statement and you're standing with me of saying, you know what, you have a disability, I'm going to stand by your side, regardless if I don't have a disability. That's besides the point. But I like your message enough to give you an opportunity.
Absolutely. And I think even, one of the things I was just actually talking at lunch, I was telling my fiance about that I was going to be on your show and how excited I was about it to get to talk to you. And I was saying that, even though, I may not have a learning disability, I think all of us on some level have something that maybe we've struggled with in our lives that we've had to overcome to do the thing that we love or put ourselves out there in a big way. And I think it's a really important message for people that have disabilities and for people that might have, what I would call maybe an invisible disability, right? That maybe had a traumatic upbringing or had, something happen where, they had that kind of crisis of confidence, so to speak, where they weren't sure if they were able to, had that some person in their life tell them that they might not amount to anything, right? I think a lot of us have had our bullies or our moments where maybe we weren't sure of ourselves. So I think it's such an inspiration what you're doing, and I love that message because you are such an inspiration to so many people. Keith, I work with people pretty much consistently in my field where I help people get their podcast going. I help people kind of get their heart-centered business going with purpose. They want to create an impact. And these are people generally that don't have, learning disabilities, right? And so when I look at you and I see how much you've accomplished and how much you've done, right, it really just shows me, and I'm so excited to share this with all of my people as well, to show them that when you put your mind to it, when your heart's aligned to it, when you're committed to making a bigger impact, you can truly do anything. You don't have to let anything stop you.
No, absolutely. And if it's a possibility, I would have loved to work with you.
Yeah, no, we should talk. So why don't you tell me a little bit about that? Tell me a little about when did you decide that you wanted to create this network and you wanted to kind of have this kind of lifestyle?
Well, who's interviewing who here?
Oh, no. Okay. Well, you can interview me. You can ask me questions as well. I'll have to have you on my podcast.
Absolutely. Hey, we can take turns and make it more entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
So to answer your question, what was the question again? I'm sorry, I just remember bits and pieces.
Oh, when did you decide that you wanted to create this?
June for, don't ask me why it was 13, but it's funny because in the Jewish community, 13 is a lucky number. So happily, I created my talk show. Don't ask me the date. I don't remember. It's like the 6th or 10th or something. But I remember it was June 13th, 2013. And I'm the youngest out of 4 brothers and 1 sister. My brother before me was saying to my parents, I don't know what to do with my life. I don't know what to do. My dad, so I go talk to your brother. He knows people. Go talk to your sisters. He knows people. They can point you in the right direction. You can take the state exam. And I got tired of hearing it. I said, what about me? What about you? You're retarded. You're not qualified to have a state job. You can't read. So I wanted to be a secretary. And it's like, well, you can't be a secretary if you can't read or dictate notes. Understandable. I'm not qualified to go to college. I read and learn at a 5th grade level. I was told I was going to be a burden and be placed into a group home. And I said, you know what? Regardless of what you think of me, I'm going to show you, no matter what, I can still amount to something. So you know what? I'm on the spectrum of being retarded. That's fine. I'm going to show you, but that doesn't mean a damn thing. And I can create my own talk show. For 6.5 years, thanks to you, we're up to officially 660. For 6.5 years, I found something that I feel really passionate about. This is what I want to do until I die.
I love it. I love it. Well, okay. I'll let you ask me the questions. I'll let you interview me.
No, it's fine. I ask you, you ask me. But for people who want to know who you are a professional actress and you're a storyteller. Now, what really caught my attention is actually I interviewed a lot of, professional actors and actresses, but storyteller, are you a professional writer? Or what can you tell us being a professional storyteller?
So I started off my career acting, and then what evolved out of that was a blog and sharing my story on social media and sharing, sounds a little bit similar to your journey in the way that I was doing this. I was doing the acting thing. I wasn't really, it was fun. I didn't feel like I was making the impact I wanted to make. And I had my own personal struggle with loving my body and healthy eating habits, and I was in a really dark place when I was in my early 20s, and I got myself out of it by connecting to my spirituality, connecting to wanting to take care of myself again, and I started a blog to share about my journey because I felt that there were other women out there that also might be going through the same thing, that I could inspire and help to the other side. And then that really became my passion. So my passion has shifted And it organically happened. I also had another, when I was 25, I had another kind of crisis moment in my life where my little brother got diagnosed with a very severe illness and spent a few years in the hospital. And it really illuminated what mattered for me, like what was important in that moment, where I realized that I didn't want to do things that I didn't think were helping people anymore. I wanted to make sure that, with whatever little piece of influence or piece of, time I had, that I could inspire people to be happier and live better lives. And that's when I actually ended up getting on TV for my cooking. So it was kind of a turn of events where I was on this TV show called The Taste for Healthy Cooking. And that's how my first book came about. And my first book was all about loving yourself, and it has recipes and meditations in it, because for me, that journey was both the actual, eating healthy and taking care of myself, but a lot of it was a spiritual journey of regaining that love for myself, because similar. And so now what it has evolved to, I'll finish that thought before I go on to something else, but right now what it's evolved to is pretty much being a spiritual mentor to people. And I really help other people do that same journey that I did when I got to that point. A lot of people come to me when they reach that point in their life where they're like, I want to be a part of something bigger. I want to feel like the work I'm doing in the world is contributing, is helping make people better in some way, or inspiring them or uplifting them. And then I help them not only work through a lot of the fears that come up with that, and a lot of the, our own kind of shadows that we have to dance with when we're putting ourselves out there in a big way and we're like going for it. And the self-confidence issues, like you mentioned, as well as the more logistical parts of it. That's what I've been doing now, and that's what makes me lit up like a Christmas tree, because I just think the world needs more of that right now, more than anything. It needs more of us out there being the helpers and being the uplifters, and especially right now, right, with everything that's going on in the world right now. Everyone can use that. And one of the things I did want to, I think you brought up kind of, how you had that experience where your parents or one of your parents are saying, you won't amount to anything, or you can't do this. I had a similar, but, a similar experience with that, where, growing up, my parents really didn't, I was always kind of a little bit of a special kid, in the way where, I was just never like I always was very, very creative, very, kind of march to the beat of my own drum, and like coming up with my own little schemes and whatnot. And so, my parents were always like, you can't do this. Like, please, like, get a normal job. Like, please, like, go, literally, I remember the same year my first book came out, my parents were like, well, can you just work at Starbucks and get health insurance like a normal person? And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm doing fine. So my parents also had a really hard time. I feel like believing in me sounds really harsh, but I feel like they had a really hard time believing that I could accomplish what I've accomplished. Right. And I think, that is just it's such a powerful thing that so many of us go through in different ways, right? Of really you have to reclaim that confidence in yourself, right? And not need someone else to validate that you're good enough or you're worthy enough to really pursue it. And, that's what I commend you so much for, because I think that is probably for a lot of us the biggest struggle, right? Or the biggest mountain to climb, so to speak.
No, absolutely. And while we're talking about parents, yeah, my mom is a supporter of mine, even though she is embarrassed of it sometimes. My dad supports me. only, same thing. He says it's not realistic. Go get a job, 9 to 5. This is just I hate when he says this is only a hobby. And I said I'm gonna try to turn into something. He says fine. Let me ask you something. Are you making money? No. Then it isn't a job. It's a hobby. It's like, well, I guess once I get my first paycheck, But I understand, and the same thing your parents were saying, they want you to get a 9 to 5 job. They want you to pay, for your health insurance. They want you to be happy. But my
Exactly.
parents, same thing for me. They want me to be happy, but at the same time, not having my head up my ass. And because my dad likes to say to me, I live in an alternative reality. I give you an example of what he was. I called someone a couple of days ago and said, "Hey, would you like to be on my talk show?" And his response was, we're in the middle of the crisis is Corona." I said, "Yes," and I said, and he would yell. As soon as I said "and," he lost it. He's like, "No, there is no and. People are dying, and you want me to be on your stupid talk show? What's it about anyway? People with disabilities? Oh, in that case, yes, I do want to be on your show." And I said, "I understand. Everyone's scared shitless. My dad's scared shitless. I'm doing my show to try not to think about it. I'm not watching the news. I don't want to listen to the news. I want to get through this. I understand people are dying. This is not a good time, period. But you look at WWE, you look at, just any other show, and if I can just take you out of reality for 15 minutes, for a half hour, and just give you something to focus on, then that's what I want to do. I want to give you an outlet because my dad listens to the news and he says at the end of it he wants to cut his wrists, because people are dying and now there's got to probably be like a food shortage. I can't listen to this, so I'm staying focused on what makes me happy. I create up a routine. As long as I get to do my talk show, that's all that matters. And yes, okay, maybe I do live in an alternative reality, but as long as I'm not like hurting anyone or doing any harm, there's no harm in it. But this
I
is not about me. This is about you.
No, but I agree with you completely. I agree with you completely. And it was interesting because I was just having I was having a conversation with one of my close friends who also she has a really big podcast in spirituality. And we were talking about how sometimes it's so both of us, we watch the news and at certain times, we monitor our news intake and we'll talk about, current events and stuff. And we'll get to these points sometimes where just this morning we were saying that sometimes it's funny, you go from on one hand feeling like you have a decent amount of influence, right? We have people that follow us, we have people that listen to our stuff, right? Which is a privilege, right? That a lot of people don't even have these platforms where you could get on a talk show, right? Where you could share about your views and share something inspirational. And then sometimes you hear about like the crisis and all the stuff that's going on and you think, okay, well, how I got me personally, like I can't go and like save these people that are dying from coronavirus, right? Me personally can't, institute better government laws or whatnot to help people out right now, right? That's not within my personal or her personal or our personal jurisdiction, right? And I was telling her, I was like, I firmly do believe that it's necessary on a certain level for us to live in both of the realities, right? And I would venture to say that it's not that, I think me and you probably have a very similar way of going about it. It's not that we're ignoring what's going on in the world. It's not that we're not seeing what's happening on the news, but it's also that we have to allow ourselves to be in this reality where we can create an impact, right? We have to say, okay, well, you know what? Maybe we aren't trained medical professionals. So we're not going to go there on the front lines because we probably wouldn't know what to do or help, right? But what we can do is say exactly like you said, where is my call to service? Well, I can get on and I can keep doing these interviews, and I can keep offering this space for people where they can come and listen and be inspired and be uplifted and have that kind of light shine on them in the middle of the darkness, right? To be able to have that moment where they reconnect to perhaps the part of them that is just like me and you, the part of them that wants to help, the part of them that has something that they've overcome or a message that they can share. And I think that is, one of the things I also said, is that I do have this belief that we create a ripple effect with our light, right? We can create a ripple effect. So maybe the person we were talking today about, just like, the different like sad things that happen in the world. I don't really want to go into it because it's depressing, but I remember this one story. My little brother, who I mentioned, has gone through a lot of health issues, and he's stable right now, but his quality of life is much different than it was before everything happened. And he goes through his daily kind of health struggles. And there are some times where he can get very depressed. I remember when it was, really bad a few years ago, I was very worried about him because he was so sad, and he just felt like, I'm a freak, like I'm never going to have a normal life. And, a lot of really things were going on. And I remember he had this one moment that I'll never forget. He told me about it because he was in the hospital. He'd had a blood clot in his liver, and I was sitting next to him, and he was smiling, saying, he was like, "You never believe I had the best day yesterday before this happened." And I was like, "What happened, Kenny?" And he tells me, he was like, "Well, his friends were supposed to come over that weekend to hang out, and because of his health stuff, he couldn't drink alcohol or anything like that. But he went to the liquor store because he wanted to make sure he had like beers or whatever for his guy friends. And he was excited to he got his like beers and his snacks and like his whole little thing because he was looking forward to it. And he was like, the man at the liquor store, he just treated me like a real person. He just looked at me, and he, made a joke about, I look too young, and, my brother does look very young, even though he was of age. And he asked me about like my friends, and asked me about he just like had a real conversation with me, and it was one of those things where to that guy at the cashier at the liquor store probably thought nothing of it, honestly, right? Maybe he was just in a good mood that day. I like to think that, things like this show and like podcasts like mine and different people that are putting out these positive things, right? Maybe he had listened to one of that this morning, right? And he was just in a positive mood and wanted to share that with people. But, he probably had no idea that like the guy that he, shared that maybe 5-10 minute exchange with would be in a hospital bed the next day, reminiscing about how amazing it felt to have that conversation, And so when I think about the kind of work that we do, when we just put out these, whether it's a podcast or a message on Instagram or whatever inspirational into the world, right? I like to think that the people that we touch, then they're go on and touch people that maybe aren't even at the space where they can listen to this yet, right? But that lightness touches their lives through the other people that go out in the world and are now in a more positive space because of it.
No, absolutely. Now it's the last 6 minutes. I'm going to pass the show over to you. But the one thing I do want to talk about real fast is social media. Can social media make you or break you with everything that you accomplish, from being a professional actress, from being a storyteller? Does your Facebook, Instagram, Twitter following dictate if people should work with you or not?
I would say right now, it depends. I will say my biggest social media platform is Instagram. And it's Instagram, then Facebook, and I barely do any Twitter because I'm really not on Twitter. And so I think right now I get a lot of clients from Instagram because that's how they find me. I'm also on YouTube. I love YouTube, like you were saying before. I think YouTube is a great platform. I think as far as social media goes, I think we're in the social media world, right? So it's good to have a presence. And I think you also have to honor what you feel connected to. And I think it's better to allow yourself to lean into, whether that's YouTube or that's Instagram or that's Facebook, leaning into that social media that you feel connected with, that you actually enjoy being on. I think that goes a long way. You don't have to try to like master all of them. Just get a presence on all of them and like pick the ones that you really want to go into. And yeah, I think there's a total way to make an impact without it. I just think that we're moving more and more into a digital world, right? And so I think having kind of a digital space where people can get more of you also just allows you to make a wider impact. Like people can find your YouTube videos from everywhere in the world, right? So whereas if you had maybe a live studio audience, you'd maybe only have like people that were local to you, right? So I think social media gives that impact. I think the lie is that you have to have a ton of followers on social media. I think it's, it'll grow in time, but I think it's way more important to just really have an engaged community, whether that's on YouTube or Facebook or social, to have people that are there, that care, that comment, that interact with, that you can, like you were saying, I loved, when we were talking about this podcast, you were like, oh, just make a friend, I think that should also be the intention of social media. Like, let's put ourselves out there to connect. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Now, let's last couple of minutes left. Was there anything you wanted to promote? Anything you wanted to talk about? Anything you want to ask? This is your time.
Sure. So one of the things that I'm offering right now, like we were talking about before, I actually think right now with everything going on with this crisis is a call to action for a lot of the people that maybe were on the fence. Maybe we're having that dream about trying to do something that made an impact. Maybe that were wanting to use their voice in the world, but were feeling like they were, just getting bogged down by fears and limitations and whatnot. I've created some resources to help people that are ready to take that next step, to try to create a business, to try to share their medicine in a way, and also be able to support themselves while doing it, while putting something really good in the world. So I'll give some of the links for you to have below. The first thing and that I'll share about, it's completely free. It's a 90-minute Q&A workshop that I do with a bunch of other, I call them light leaders, people that really want to inspire and make an impact with their work. And I just share a little bit about what you need to know to get going, to like create a business right now with everything that's going on in the economy, with everything that's going on with the pandemic. And then I also have my Spread Your Light course. So my Spread Your Light course is like a online business in a box course that kind of walks you through all the things you need to know to get your business going from both the spiritual and the strategic perspective. Because I really do believe in birthing it from that place of service and from your own story. It's important you have your specific Keith Andrew medicine is because of the journey that you've been on, right? And you're able to impact people in that way, in a deeper, more profound way than I could, because you've lived it, because you have that life cred. I joke that we're moving from an age where everyone wanted all these like school certifications and whatnot to an age where the highest certification is going to be LIFE, life certification, because when you work with someone like, who is better to work with than someone that's actually been there and done that, right? Than someone that's lived that. So that's all this Spread Your Light course. I'm offering a huge discount on that right now. I'll put the link below. And of course, I do one-on-one mentorship if anyone's interested in that and feels really called. But, more than anything, actually, I also have, if you go to my YouTube as well, I have some meditations that can help people. If you're listening to Keith, maybe you're a huge fan of Keith and you're just like, man, he's so on purpose. He knows, how he can make an impact in the world. And maybe you don't feel like it feels as clear to you and you want some clarity on, okay, well, what could I do to make an impact? How could I create something, create a business that I feel like is helping people in the world? I have some meditations to help you kind of get in there and try to figure it out, because I truly do believe that we all have medicine that we can share with the world, and that the world's going to be so much of a better, brighter, more amazing place when we're all shining our light and sharing it.
No, absolutely. Now, I do have a couple questions for you off the air. But
Yeah.
wrapping up, how can people follow you on social media? You just talked about a couple, but what are your main ones that people can find you?
Yeah, so Instagram is probably my main jam. It's just my name, at Cassandra Bodzak. And if your people are YouTubers and they love the YouTube content, I also have a YouTube channel. It's just Cassandra Bodzak TV. So there's tons of free content on that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I want you to be completely honest. Now, when I first approached you, because we've been talking for a number of years now, but this is actually finally I got you on the show. First time I reached out to you was actually 2013, funny enough.
Oh, wow.
But,
I didn't even know that. I don't even remember that, honestly.
Yeah, you were always busy.
Yeah. So the truth of that is that I usually don't answer my email. So I have an assistant that answers most of my emails. And she usually filters a lot of stuff before it even gets to me. So she had, and it's been different since 2013. I've probably had 5 different assistants. But Bridget, my current assistant, when your email came through, she voice memoed me about it and told me about what it was, and I said yes. Before that, I'm not sure exactly what happened. But I will say that I've had a few instances where people did weird things, where they sent emails saying that it was for something like this, like it was for a good cause and it was for, disabilities and whatnot. And I had said yes to it, and it turned into this kind of like money scheme that they were putting on me. It was and so that was really like scary and confusing. And so I think that was the main thing that we've been more on, because when I first started out my business, and I don't think you could have emailed me in 2013, because I didn't have my business yet, or I just started it maybe.
Was it on LinkedIn?
I don't think so. I guess I'm trying to think back, because 2013 was the year when everything happened with my brother. So that was like probably my very first year of like trying to lean into doing more of that. Because that was definitely the year that Kenny was in the hospital. And, but yeah, but I will say just timing. I think it's probably just timing. And the thing with, from a perspective of if you're reaching out to other people, I would just say, I think what helps is just like in the pitch email, just writing a little bit like, this is a synopsis of the program, and this is the intention of the program, and then maybe even just a link to a prior episode. and then that just like allows people an opportunity to see it. Because I feel like we had to, I know Bridget said that she like asked you about like what the program was about and stuff like that. So we get a ton of pitches,
Right.
honestly. And so the easier that you just like make it clear, and I know this sounds awful, but it's awful that you have to say this, but even saying something like, hey, like I just want you to be a guest, like there's no other demands, like there's not to say there's no other demands, but a lot of people, what they've tried to do is they make it seem like they just want to interview for their podcast.
Yeah.
They really want you to like pay, like buy something, or give them thousands of dollars, or they want you to they're even just like a lot of podcasts, they'll have contracts saying that you have to like send out X amount of emails or do X amount of promotion and whatnot. And I always like share on my like Instagram stories, and I'll share in my newsletter and stuff, like the podcast I'm on, the things I do. But it's definitely something that I know my assistant like tries to like weed through now, because we've had so many kind of weird things with that we have to be more choosy about that. But I think if just as far as like if you're pitching other people, I think if you include a little bio and a clip to the show, and just share what it's about, and I just want to inspire people, and I don't see why anyone would not do it.
No, absolutely. Now, I do have a couple questions for you off the air.
Yeah.
Wrapping up, it was a real honor, Publix, having you as a guest, and I'm looking forward to part 2 down the road.
Yes, it was an honor. It was an honor. I'm so glad I got to chat with you.
Michelle Doherty.
Hey, I'm Laura Menino.
Hi, I'm Deborah Jensen.
I'm Linda Collins.
Hi, I'm Marissa Joy Davis.
This is Michelle Wong.
I'm Nancy Rose.
My name is Brandy Hunt. And
hello, my name is Raven Wynn.
Hi there, my name is Giovanna Vidal.
Hi, I'm Monica Thomas.
Hi, I'm Paisley Blackburn.
I'm Ashley Burgess.
Hi, my name is Jeanette Abney.
Hi, I'm Sharon Spank.
Hey, this is Samantha Moore.
Hi, I'm Melody Jones.
Hi, my name is Becky Yee.
Hi, you're watching the Keith Andrew Network.